Hello. Today I'm going to read a section or chapter, what was it, 3 of Napoleon and Josephine. So we are chapter 3, we're on chapter 5. We're going to read it. So let's read chapter 3. If I had written to you in the first hour of my rage, the Viscount de Bournemouth letter as inventive to Marie Josephine Rose. Again, my pen would have scorched the paper. But now, 3 weeks have passed, and despite my despair, this suffocating fury, I shall be able to control myself to tell you in cold blood that you are the vilest of the creatures, and that my sojourn in this island has acquainted me with your abominable conduct here. He went on to enumerate the intrigues he claimed to have discovered, accusing her of having slipped off at, uh, at her parents' siesta hour, with the connivance of the slaves for assassinations with army and navy officers, and having an had an affair en route to France, any creature who could open her arms to a lover even as she makes ready to join the man to whom her troth is plighted has no soul. She is lower than the lowest dumpets of this earth, in the light of any access, what I am to think of the clouds and conflicts that have married our marriage. But what am I to think of the last child? I must accept it, but I swear in heaven that it is the prodigy of another's blood that flows in its veins. In page upon the superative page, this flagrantly unfaithful husband executed his wife for transgressions attributed to her without substantiation, forbade her so much as a tear or protestation, and demanded that either she return to Marquine or take herself. Incredible it may be seen, the imperial records for the year 1807 show the grant of a pension at the express instance of the imperial empress Josephine to Madame de Langcroix, widowed for the second time in financial stress. Oh, that's for never mind. I don't know what I'm reading in notes. Okay, or take herself off. Okay, let me. Or take herself off to a convent. He threatened to show himself a tyrant should she dare to defy his orders. When with his customary effrontery, Alexandra presented himself for a farewell visit to Trousdale's plantation. Monsieur de Tractor expressed his outrage, categorically denied the charges against his daughter Virtue, and pointed out that if his son-in-law had appeared as a belated volunteer for the American War of Independence, his only action had been against the reputation of his wife and the honor of her family, and that he had been under fire only once from the angry gentlemen of Fort Royal, whose hospitality fair crews had reciprocated by alienating his wife's affection. Returning to France in late October of that year of 1783, Alexandra had to listen to his own father's then debate. and his indignant denial of any misbehavior on the part of his daughter-in-law while under his roof. The young Viscount nevertheless addressed having a second fortitude letter to his wife, upbraiding her for not having already retired to a convent, and concluding relentlessly, no move, no gesture, no attempt at why this is like blah. There you go. No attempt, um, no attempt at a reconciliation on your part can stir or shake me. And I urge you to warn my father and, and your aunt that their efforts to intervene will prove not only fruitless, but even damaging to your cause. For 6 months now, I have been hardening my heart against you. Resign yourself, as I have, to a distasteful course of action. To a separation you must be affliction above all of our children. And believe me, madam, when I say that the two of us, you are not the one to be most pitied. Marina Josephina Rose had no choice but to place her infant daughter with a foster mother, and to retire with her 2-year-old son to a convent. But in retiring, she could choose, with Aunt Renegard's discriminating counsel, Paris' most fashionable convent, the Pentamont, the resort of ladies of quality in distress, abandoned wives, sisters and daughters, wives in process of separation from their husbands, orphans in search of husbands, even in distress. These were ladies of the society to which Alexandra and therefore Josephina aspired. If she must languish for 2 years in conventional retreat, she would do so in an exalted company to which she could not otherwise have hoped for entry. As it developed, it was not conveniently that her husband had banished her, but to the most selective Persian finishing schools. There she made an acquaintance and formed relations with members of France's most illustrious families, and an attentive observer. She took note of their every word, every expression of opinion, every attitude, every custom, gesture, mannerism, with a good ear and an in, intimative, uh, imitative tongue. She mastered their highly specialized upper stradium jargon, and all of its subtlety of cadence and inflection, with all its reconciled terms of reference, that magnificent air, that sup- superlative grace and charm of manner which distinguished old Remedies society, and inspired the term grande dame. Marie Josephine Rose made her own. At Pentamont, she familiarized herself with the lofty world of the French court, with the intricacies of Corridor's expertise, the endless ramifications of the royal and noble hierarchies, the ranks of the ancient feudal nobility, as distant from the newly ennobled, newly affiliated pilots who owned their titles to successful careers in law or in finance. The infinite nuances of the class distinction to which peers and pressures of deep op- obscene was due, and for which a mere stretch of the bow sufficed, for which aristocrats both panels of a double door were to be swung open, and which ones were expected to make their entry into a salon through a single panel. At Paramount, Marie Josephine Rose furnished her mind with all this paraphernalia of tradition, eloquence, and protocol, which, as she could never dreamed of, would prove useful to her in her own court, rather than admirable and Tourette. She must have been in 1783 at the time she entered the convent, an appealing figure, a picture of injured innocence, this pretty, wistful young woman of 20, with her winsome, ringlet little boy, that exceedingly sweet disposition to which her father had referred, and which not even her enemies could deny, won her many and lifelong friends there. She was generally divinely, exclusively tactful, as people were to say, agreeable, considerate, and invariably good-humored in society where good humor was a sociable requisite. And beyond any shadow of a doubt, she was, after 4 years in the fashion capital, fashionably as well as becoming attired in her impeccably good taste, with her flair for style, her passion for clothes. She could not have, she could not for long have looked dowdy or provisional, and she was no longer an ugly duckling, to employ a metaphor as amped as it what is irresistible in the case of a woman whose imperturbable emblem was to be the swan. By the time she came to Pendabuck, every chance of awkwardness, excuse me, and Addison's were gone, together with the plump cheeks of Alexandra's letter. By then, she had become her lovely self. Sleek, Salvet, I don't even know how to pronounce that word. We'll go with it. Let me see how what pronunciation that is. It's weird. So weird. Open. Ugh, don't pronounce that. Um, Svelte. Person slender and elegant.
Svelte. Svelte.
Well, well. That's weird.
Svelte.
Well, shapely, shapely, the exquisite and exquisitely graceful creature who delights the eye today on canvas, and in marble. Hers was not a classic, not a striking beauty, but the illusion of beauty, mysterious, elusive, and softer, more pro- pro- provocative, and more stirring still. Only the biographers, not the artists, could catch the sound of her voice, low, silvery, sweetly modulated, like a caress. is as caressing and vol- voluptuous as her deep blue glance, her smile, her walk. There are few descriptions of her during the year 1783 to 1785, for biographer friends have not yet appeared on the scene, but it so happened that the father of one of her legal advisers accompanied them on a visit to the young Viscount de Bermude, and so fresh from the enchantment of the meeting, described her in a letter to his wife as a fascinating young person, a lady of distinction and of elegance, perfect of manner, endowed with a multiple of graces, and with the loveliest of speaking voices. Yes, seeing and talking with her, one cannot understand the outrageous behavior of a husband and his cruelties in her regard. The latest of these having been the abduction of Eugene, who was restored to his mother only under threat of legal action. Marie Rosette Josephina Rose's first move had been to call in a lawyer, Louis Jordan, to prepare a plea for legal separation. The evidence collected was overwhelming. Alexandra's own father gave witness to his daughter-in-law's good conduct, and there came a flood of testimonial letters from Martinique vindicating her girlhood virtue, repudiating the Viscount, the Barnhardt accusation, and voicing outrage at his attempts to suborn witnesses to transduce his wife's reputation. So Napoleon is definitely not a good person, obviously. He's definitely not treating her right. After 13 months of vain endeavor to collect as much as shreds of evidence against his wife, and confronted by the convincing dossier drawn up by her attorneys, the Viscount de Beauharnais agreed to a settlement out of court. A document dated March 4th, 1785, he accepted in full the terms demanded by the Viscountess. He recognized the injustice of the changes of injury and neglect, and made and he made public retraction of his accusation, apologizing on the ground that he had been carried away by youthful, immature, imperviously, and temporarily irrationality, and further declared that upon his return to France, the testimony of the public as well as of his father was all in favor of his wife. Consenting voluntarily to the terms with which his lady could therefore extract judiciously, he pledged himself to a payment of 5,000 livres annually for her maintenance, plus an additional 1,000 livres for the maintenance of his daughter, legal acknowledgement of Hortense's legitimacy. By the terms of the separation agreement, the Viscount was awarded permanent custody of Hortense and custody of Eugene until he reached the age of 5, when he was to be surrendered to his father's care for education. Her honor vindicated, Marie Josephine Rose lived on quietly and circumspectly in her Corvette apartment, whereas her husband proceeded to furnish further proof of his liberation or liberation by bringing the list of his known bastards up to 3. By a child born in the summer of 1785 to a young woman identified as the unmarried and of good family, a daughter Abigail, for whom the Empress Josephine, long years after Alexander's death, would generously provide both a husband and a dowry. In the autumn of 1785, Maria Josephine Rose left Paris with both of her children for a several-month visit with her aunt Renardin and her father-in-law at that Fontainebleau village. It is not inconceivable that, with her social ambitions and her national disposition to gaily at the age of 22, she timed her arrival to coincide with the court's annual visit to Fontainebleau, and it would have been an unnatural had not this attraction-dressed widow attracted a colorful, notable admirers, and avid as she was for diversion, for masculine attention and admiration, haunted, danced, and flirted with them. A string of noble names of those of the Duke de Lorge, de Chevallon, de Coligny, Count de Crespigny, de Cheval, de Bryson, have all been tediously linked with her, although little or no evidence can be found when substantiation, none beyond the bare fact that she was acquainted with these gentlemen, and that their paths crossed in Fontainebleau and Paris during the years 1785 to 1788. As for her good offices in their behalf after resolution, her efforts to have their names removed from the proscribed list of emigres, royalist spies, and conspirators, such intervention need not be an indication of romantic interest. She did as much for a legion of friends of friends, and total scandal. Gossip about her gallant adventures subsequent to her separation from her husband may have been at the current at the time, but it was not dignified by print until after Waterloo. It was about 1815, after Waterloo, when the Bonapartes first became the popular subject for Lepine, and the figure of the voluptuous Creole, a favorite one. After Waterloo, after the restoration of the Bonaparte monarchy, it was as popular a literary sport to vilify the Bonapartes and glorify the bonbons as after the revolution it had to be variety the Bonapartes and glorify the Bonapartes. What? Yeah. The process was reversed again in 1852 when the last of the bonbons was swept through the throne of France, and the Bonapartes were restored in the person of Napoleon III, grandson of the Empress Josephine. Marie Josephine Rose departed from France in 17 what? What? I'm making up. Well, I'm reading right now, so you gotta, okay. Alright, hold on. Can you hold on, please? Alright. Don't make a lot of noise, please.
Hi.
Okay, I already read this part. The gossip. Oh, Bobby, no. The gossip that she had sought refuge in her remote island home to conceal a pregnancy.
I can't see anything.
Okay, yeah, I know, because you're covering the camera. In the birth of the illegitimate child. Did you stop it? No, you didn't. Stop doing that. Stop touching it. Don't touch it. Bobby, don't touch it.
I'm showing it my hand.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. The legitimate child was funded primarily in malice, but where am I at? But stop doing that. Can you please stop doing that? Yeah, you can be in timeout. Yeah. Okay. And don't do that. Don't mess with my computer. If you want to, you can play with the camera. I don't care. You can say hi. You can do whatever.
Hi.
But researchers pounded on an entry in the imperial records of 1807. The grant of the diary by Napoleon I to a Marquise Maria Josephine Before at the time of her marriage to a man named Blanchett. The bride was identified as a founding who had been adopted practically, if not legitimately, by Josephine's mother and had been listed as among the household attached to the late Madame de la Paisley. At the time of the later's death, in 1870, after the sabbatical of the Second Empire, after Napoleon III's abdication and flight, a black mail letter was found among the efforts in the Triumvirate Palace.
Mom.
It was signed by a man named Blanchett, who claimed to be the son of the founding Maria Josephine and the grandson of the Empress Josephine.
So,
Discovery of the sheet of paper sent the biography back over the faint old trail. Frederick Manson, France's premier historian of the Napoleonic epic, but with a stubborn prejudice against Josephine, gave the incident years of study, writing at the turn of the century. He first credited the tale, but later he published formal retraction on the basis of insignificant evidence. As to the sub-Martini episode, there was actually nothing mysterious or suspicious to the fact that a young wife in matrimonial difficulties had come to her mother, and to a father and sister who were both gravely ill. Financial difficulty too, he said, the Viscount de Beauport in 1788. The Viscount, living profitably, was remiss in the scheduled payment to his wife and Bobby, stop.
And Poopy and Pee-Pee. I am a toy with a yellow Poopy and Pee.
Had clamped down over the Atlantic, had caused the decline of Marquise's export trade.
Poopy and Pee. I am toy with a
And with it,
Poopy
The trust her family finances to the point where reminiscences to their daughter in France were necessarily interrupted.
I am Poopy Happy,
But
which is the toy with. I am Poopy Happy,
had already
the
surrendered
toy with.
routine in the care of his father
I
before
am
she
toy
embarked
with, which
with
is
Hortense
in
in
Poopy and
June of
Pee.
1788 for the
I am
and
Poopy,
Tyler
which
Street.
is in
We
Pee.
set out alone, Mother and I, sailing from
I am
La
Pee,
Harbe,
Jivden,
where
toy
violent
with
winds almost capsized the ship, and we came close to perishing before we had cleared the harbor. Hortense
I am here with the youth and toy with and Poopy and Pee.
28 years later, when in exile from France with the rest of the Bonapartes, she set about composing her memoir. Hortense attributed her mother's departure to the fact that she was oversensitive, still brooding over the separation from her husband, and hopeful of finding a revenue by putting an ocean between them. Upon our arrival, you gonna go down? In Martiniquette, we were greeted with transports of joy by our family. Hortense continued the tranquil life we led, visiting first at one plantation, then at another, doubtlessly suited my mother, for we remained nearly 3 years far from France. An exclusively domestic or bucolic way of life was not. However, the one best calculated to suit Hortense's gay and fancy-free young mother, a healthy young woman of 25 with a healthy appendix for life and love, who in 8 years of marriage has spent a total of 11 months under the same roof and in the same bed as her husband. There were, as might have expected, livelier interludes at Fort Royal, a port of call and naval base for the French fleet of the Antilles, for the carnivals, balls, and receptions there. Marie Josephine was already a confirmed Parisian sent off to Aunt Remington for fashionable costumes and accessories, a decolletage, and this diaphanous ballgown, according to one another, a dozen fans, where am I at? And 5 pair of English garters in another. Among the officers whom her radiance attracted at the Fourth Royal Gatless, the name of Captain Scription de Rose Bryson, a 30-year-old veteran of the American War of Independence, is frequently mentioned as a suitor, if not a lover. That the captain and the viscountess were fellow passengers on a French ship of the line, which set sail suddenly and unexpectedly on September 7, 1790, is an established fact, but it appears to have come about by accident. Their hairbreadth escape from Martini is related by Hortense, upon whom the incident made a lasting impression. The revolution had begun in the colony. The governor forced us to flee precipitately. We were staying in the government's house in Fort Royal when suddenly one evening my mother was notified that the town was under attack. She rushed out instantly to seek refuge on board a vessel, the Sensible. which was commanded by an acquaintance of hers. As we crossed the van, a public square, a cannonball fell close beside us. That is today the larger-than-life-style marble statue of Empress Josephine stands at the spot where, according to island tradition, the cannonball struck. The next day, the mutineers, having overwhelmed the town, ordered the French ships to return to port, threatening them with fire from the fort. Our ship's crew shouted out its determination to return to France and hurried to pull out a range of the shore batteries. Just as the threat was put in execution, the cannon boomed, but we go to the bathroom. But we escaped their shots. Fate had spared us, and there we were unexpectedly on the high seas without so much as an adieu to anyone ashore. Hortense mutiners were colonial battalionists, along with slaves, freemen, mulattoes, and unprivileged whites. All the contests of Marty and revolution against colonial tyranny and oppression against caste, discrimination, and fear inequalities, an echo of the revolution that had begun in France on July 14, 1789, with the assault on the Bastille, an echo of the cannon and musket shot to Butler Hill and Yorktown. Excuse me again. Revolution was in the
I'm
air.
getting up.
Even in the balmy air of the Caribbean.
I'm sitting on you.
I know. The wind of discontent had reached even the islands under the wind, Martine and Santo Domingo. The only report on the stormy 52-day eastbound crossing of the Sensible is that of the Hortense. I don't know who had been fiercely defensive of the reputation of her much maltreated mother, as she was of that her marinated father. Makes no mention, to be sure, of any shipboard romance between her mother and the gallant captain. Those imaginative historical fiction writers who do forget to mention that she was a notorious poor sailor. It is difficult to imagine Napoleon as a conclusive to any myth. And that is chapter 3? Yeah, 3 of the Before Josephine. I don't know. Stop doing that. That's not even a thing. So that is chapter 3 of Josephine Before Napoleon. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe down below and click that thumbs up button. Bye.